You're watching Business Nigeria. Now, amid economic downturn and rising inflation, the tax burden on Nigerians in the first 9 months of 2022 increased by 285.13 billion naira. That's according to the National Bureau of Statistics. The NBS, in its recently released GDP reports, disclosed that the tax revenue increased by 16.57% increase from the 1.72 trillion naira paid in the corresponding period of 2021. With the global economic downturn affecting revenue projections and growth, the federal government has resorted to raising its tax endeavors. The NBS report also shows that calculated based on current basic prices, index taxes are taxes such as value-added taxes, customs or import duties paid to the government by producer that are later passed on to the consumer. And now the federal government has directed telecommunications operators in the country who want to deploy broadband infrastructure in green areas to pay only 14.50 naira as right-of-way charges. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Mohammed Bello, who made this known, explained the discounted charges would be from December 1st, 2022 and run to the next 2 years. Speaking at the launching of approved projects by the Federal Executive Council under the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy in Abuja, the minister noted that the green areas are places lacking any telecommunication infrastructure in the FCT. He further explained that the federal government, the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory Administration agreed on the harmonization of right-of-way charges across the country. And Nigeria's gross domestic product grew by 2.25% year-on-year in real terms in the third quarter of the year, representing a 1.78% decline compared to 4.03% growth rate in third quarter of 2021. Now, according to the latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics, the reduction in growth was attributed to the base effect of the recession and the challenging economic conditions which had impeded productive activities in the country. Now, growth also decreased by 1.29% when compared to the 3.5% growth rate recorded in the preceding quarter. In the quarter under the review, aggregate GDP stood at 52.26 trillion naira in nominal terms, higher than the 45.11 trillion naira recorded in third quarter of 2021 and indicating a year-on-year nominal growth rate of 15.83%. To give us more insight into these developments, and not being joined by virtually by the Deputy President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Gabriel Idahosa. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Nigeria. First and foremost, let's start by looking at the latest figures, which seem to the slowest growth since COVID-19 pandemic. It has only grown by 2.25% year-on-year in third quarter of 2022. What does this mean to the health of the Nigeria's economy?
Well, the decline in growth rates is reflecting the economic realities that the main drivers of productive activity in the real sector are facing. You have the less persistent rise in very key requirement for most productive activity, the price of diesel. You have continuous decline in the exchange rates against the naira, which translates into imported inflation of most products that we require to run the economy. And then you have the security situation that has continued to reduce production in the agricultural and agro-allied sectors of the economy. So when you put all of this together, it's not a surprise that the growth in GDP is declining as we see it. And that is a trend that can only be reversed when those factors driving the decline can be addressed. It will be necessary to address those major factors that are really bearing down on the economy to expect a much higher growth of GDP in the foreseeable future.
So if I really want to get you right, what exactly would you blame this slow growth on?
Pardon?
If I want to get you right, what exactly would you blame this slow growth on?
What exactly the slow growth
Yeah,
will
what
will
exactly?
do what? I
Yeah,
didn't
what
get the
exactly would
last
you
word.
blame this slow growth? You know, the growth rate is actually very slow according to the MBS. So, what would you attribute this slow growth on?
Yes,
What
yes.
would you attribute it to, rather?
Yeah, the main instruments that enable the productive sector, the real sector to grow are one, your cost of production. All production costs are rising from basic power, fuel, the foreign exchange for importation of raw materials, the locally produced raw materials and intermediate goods are declining in volume because of security issues across the country. A lot of farmlands and highways where most productive activity have to transcend are highly impacted negatively by security. So all of this is driving productive activity and capacity across the board. And these are the reasons why you are now seeing the aggregation of these factors that are producing the decline in GDP. Because you have to be able to run your business safely. You have to be able to get your cost of production down. You have to be able to import products at the prices that you can sell and therefore increase capacity. But if you keep getting your products, all your materials coming in higher than the price, and the income of the consumers are not rising, then you cannot increase capacity, even if you wanted to absorb the costs. So we have a huge pressure on productive activity by insecurity, by imported inflation, and by the specific cost of production that most players in the economy have to carry. It doesn't matter whether you're in production or in services, you have to use diesel in most cases. And that is a major cause of the decline in productivity because the costs keep rising all the time. There's no sign that they will be going down anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. You know, because looking at what you just mentioned, because for us to get down to the brass tacks by looking at the oil sector, which you have actually alluded to, how would you say it has exactly performed during, how positively or otherwise did it perform for this period?
Well, the oil sector had its major issue for about 2 years now when the level of oil thefts ramped up to a very dramatic level, far beyond what it used to be. And once we got to a situation where about half of our normal production of crude and gas was being stolen, then of course it meant that the GDP contribution from that sector is going down by about 50%. And that's what we are seeing. The contribution from the oil and gas sector has gone down significantly. And we are only hoping that with the effort now in this quarter that government is making to really fight the oil theft, we expect that come the next quarter, there will be significant improvement because it's now clear to everyone, including government, that we cannot afford the continuation of the level of the debt that we are seeing in the oil sector. And that is the main challenge that we face as a country, how to stop the oil theft and then build back our normal production to the level that made Nigeria the largest producer in Africa and one of the 6 or 7 largest producers in the world at any time. We have gone back to number 4 in Africa, and we are just struggling to get back to number 1 in Africa before we become the major OPEC exporters of oil. And all of this translates into rapid decline in the contribution of oil and gas sector to our GDP and the overall decline in the GDP that we are seeing.
So you're probably excited to some extent, with the Kolmani oil that the president inaugurated a few days ago in the north. Does that excite you that this will definitely help us in attaining that quota by the OPEC?
Yes, there are two things that are very exciting about Kolmani River oil projects. One is the fact there's an increase in our capacity as a country. Our oil and gas production capacity is going to rise by a significant number. But even more important is that we are, in this case, having full integrated monetization. In other words, as the oil and gas is coming out of the ground, we are taking it straight into a refinery, straight into a gas processing plant, straight into a fertilizer plant, and straight into a power plant, a power producing plant. Yeah. So the oil that is coming from the ground is not going running into a pipe into several miles to anywhere where it can be vandalized or stolen. That is the really exciting part of it. And hopefully that is the operating model and transaction that we expect to see NNPC and other oil producers doing going forward. That is, bring the oil out of the ground and begin to add value right there. Build a refinery there, whatever the size of the refinery, if it's 100 barrels per day, if it's 50,000 barrels a day, have a gas processing plant there that converts the gas into power to power industries in that area. Yeah. Have a fertilizer plant that enables you to use the gas and produce gas, gas-based fertilizer for agriculture. And then even more important, have a power plant that uses the crude or gas to produce power again for the neighborhood, for the neighboring area, and then adding to our national grid capacity. Yeah. That integrated program around Kolmani is what we want to see. We already see that in a couple of projects now, like the one in Edo State, which the Nigerian Content Board is doing. Is exactly the same model. The oil comes out of the ground, and there's a refinery, there's a power plant. In that case, there's even a data center. And we are having that energy parks, another one in Bayelsa. Yeah. If we continue to do that, then first of all, you have zero loss of crude coming out of the ground. So crude or gas coming out of the ground immediately goes into processing facilities around the well. So you have zero loss of crude or gas. Second, you will have immediate monetization. So you create a lot more jobs around the oil well by all these other facilities that are built around it. And they even thought you rapidly increase our agricultural capacity from fertilizers, our power production capacity from the country, in addition to the grid, and then you also have the refinery that produce white products, petroleum, diesel, and other aviation fuel, possibly from that same location. So it is a really exciting part of the Kolmani project, and it has kind of opened the eyes of NNPC and everyone else that the oil and gas sector of our country can really be a massive engine for growth. Immediately the oil comes out of the ground rather than putting it in vessels and exporting it to other countries.
Right. So now, away from the oil sector, let's explore the non-oil sector. Talking about that, the NBS says it contributed 94.34% to the total GDP. How would you assess its performance in this regard?
Which sector?
The non-oil sector.
Yes.
So how would you assess the performance? Based on the NBA statistics, it's actually rated it as 94.34% of the total GDP.
Yes, it essentially just validates the point that has been made in the last 2-3 years that we are no longer talking of a diversified economy. The economy is already diversified. The era where we used to rely on oil and gas for a very large proportion of our GDP is gone. It's long gone. So the non-oil sector is, of course, what is driving the economy. It has always been. It's just that as a country, we have not really recognized that and built policy around it. Because generally we build budgets now and policy around the price of crude oil. The price of the barrel of the oil is a major item in our budgeting and policy. But if we really look at the economy itself, we should be talking about the price of the barrel of palm oil, for example, the price of the barrel of coconut oil, and how much we can get from those products, which earn far more than oil. So a barrel of palm oil is about $600. The barrel of coconut oil is even much more than that. So once we begin to recognize that this economy is not used to be, but it's no more an oil and gas economy, then policy initiatives across federal, state, and local governments will focus on that and say, where is our economy really active? For example, the service industry, the entertainment industry. Nollywood is no more even an African economy or industry. Nollywood is now an international, worldwide industry. And how much are we getting from it? The statistics are probably not really capturing what Nigerians are getting from entertainment, from the Nollywood and general entertainment services. So the economy is already speaking with numbers that we have way diversified from where we were many years ago, say less 10, 15 years ago. So what is important now is for policy actions across all government agencies to recognize that and put a lot of energy into promoting this sector. And we still know that oil is there, but this whole concept of oil and not oil is even really becoming irrelevant because our economy is a non-oil economy. Even though we still like to see Nigeria as an oil economy, in reality it is not. Less than 1% of Nigerians earn their living from anything related to oil and gas, far less than 1%. So that's the reality of the economy.
Right. Before I let you go, we're actually in the pre-election seasons where a lot of politicians, even the incumbent parties, seeking to retain a particular seat in the highest, tough job in the country. Are you worried about the fact that some of these people, those are in authority, those who matter in ensuring that the economy stands still, stands tall in the Committee of Nations, might be distracted in ensuring that we maintain what we have and improve on what we have already? How much effect do you think this might have on the impact it might have on the Nigerian economy?
I didn't get the last part of the statement.
Now, I'm talking about the political season, all the activities, the electioneering, etc., the impact it might have on the Nigeria's economy in 2023. If we are talking about this now, how would it be? How is it likely to be in 2023, looking at the fact that everyone is now focused on the 2023 general election?
Well, elections are normal in any economy when you have election years. It's given whatever country we are in, when you have election year, the business is all focused on the elections to the extent that they want to see what changes are likely to happen in governments and what policy initiatives are likely to come from the new government. It is not different from any economy. In fact, the earlier, as far as the business community is concerned, the earlier the elections come and go, the better. But typically, an election year is a lame duck year as far as new government policies are concerned. It's a period where the economy is just coasting along until the elections are over, and then we begin to see, first of all, indications of what the new government policies will be like. But generally, there are no surprises in Nigeria now with election years. It will be like that in any economy.
Yeah.
And there is no science of navigating an election year. You just coast along with it, sort of steady the ship and let that ride through that wave of the election, and then resets your policies and your strategy once the new government begins to shape up, especially once they make very significant appointments in areas that affect the economy. And then everybody begins to adjust to the new situation. That's going to happen.
Absolutely.
Anytime there is elections, not this election, not particularly this election.
Well, Deputy President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Gabriel Idahosa, thank you so much for your keenness of insight on Business Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you.